Hey, this is Key Creative Studio. I still draw in Japan. Just make a point to draw every day. I want to talk about how to study anatomy. And I was talking to one of my students about um, how how important anatomy is to your drawings. Um, for example, like in my sketchbook here, so I have a lot of like gesture drawings and stuff like that, right? And or I'll use this one for example. So um whenever like you're gonna like sit down and like draw the figure, whether from a model or from imagination, there's a certain level of anatomy like we have to know. You have to know. There's no getting around it. And particularly, if you're working like in a medium, let's say like in like comics and things like that, and you're gonna be showing like heroic figures, you have to know like where the muscles are, because like you don't want to guess it, right? And that's always the problem, you know. I had this problem a long, long, long time ago, when I was first learning how to draw. And yeah, I got um, stuck quite often because I was drawing a figure, and then the figure was turning a certain way or it was flexing a certain way, and I just simply just did not know like how the muscles would work in that situation. So um, anatomy is much like perspective. It's something that at first can seem very intimidating, but it's something that we have to make friends with, so that we can have the freedom to draw anything we want to draw. I'm gonna show you a few books here that um, that a lot of people, maybe some of you even know, um, that are very popular for drawing anatomy. This is Bern Hogarth, and I think maybe just about everybody who's gone into some sort of field where it requires figure drawing, especially comics or animation, have come across this book. I think this was one of the most famous books on how to draw a figure. Um, the problem I had when and I think a lot of people have, is like when they look at this book, they get intimidated. I I know I did, by these beautiful drawings. And it's like, well, like how do you learn, like how do you draw this, right? I mean, he might be showing the figure in these really nice poses and things like that, but how do we actually like lay this in? Where do we start, right? So um in addition to, no, the Hogarth's book was very intimidating, because these are really highly polished drawings. um the next book that I found was George Bridgman's Constructive Anatomy, and I recommend this book if you haven't picked this up already. George Bridgman is popular with a lot of people, who want to draw figures that are also dynamic, but Bridgman has a style that seems to be, how can I say it? It does have a rhythm to it, but it seems to, the forms seem to lock into each other in a way, that really seems to make sense. So there's there are a lot of diagrams in here, and even though, and actually, and this appealed to me more because the drawings were a lot more linear. However, a big problem, the problem still exists. It's like, well, how do I draw this? Like where do I start, right? you know it can still be very, very, very intimidating, right? So, um, before I get into some other books that I would recommend to you, I'm going to show you a basic truth about anatomy and the human body, and like how to approach it. Okay, so one thing you can always rely on is that the human body um, is an organic form, and things that are organic, tend to have shapes that are curved or like have like S curves and things like that. So what we're talking, or like where we're going towards, is that this S curve is something that is implying a rhythm. The human body is made up mostly of water. So if you look at your body, you don't see any like perfectly straight angles, right? Any place, any given part of your body, if there's an implied straight, it's somewhat arced, right? Even like your bones, even your bones, they're never perfectly, like they're not like straight like that, like we see it like in a cartoon or something like that. But the bones actually, they come in at an arc or a curve, and like they form the condyles like that, and then they kind of go off, and quite often they somewhat offset each other somewhat, right? Most bones kind of have like this kind of shape, right? When you sit down to draw anything in the body, what you want to look for is a basic, like a rhythm. You want to look for a rhythm. Okay, so we all know, this example, like if I draw like a figure in profile, I can do like these opposite C's, like, you know this curving of his back, and then like, the curving of the abdomen, and then like you offset it with a straight, and then, like the straight of his back, and then you have like the straight of his uh pelvis bone, straight of the back of the thigh, and like the straight of the shin, and then, they can go and like feed out into the feet, and of course, like, the head, um basically something like this, right? So the reason why, this has the impression um, of a believable human form, is because it has rhythms, right? So, it's really amazing, and actually it's profound sometimes, because um, all the parts of the body actually are formed, or informed and formed, by this rhythm kind of relationship, right? So for example, um, let's say, I'll take this page here from Bridgman, right? And it's kind of convenient that it's falling apart. Okay, so all right, so like this arm here, so okay, fine, like all the muscles are explained. By the way, it's good to know what the basic muscles are, and I'll talk about some ones that are, some simple ones that are good to know. But okay, you have the supinator here. The supinator is the muscle that pretty much that turns your palm from like up to like face down. It's called supinating, right? Some people say like it's like you're holding like a bowl of soup. So you hold it like that. And then, yeah, okay, you get the pronator, teres, and then, sorry, the flexors grouped, and then you have like the pronator, this thing here. So like how do we approach this, right? Well, if you look at the shoulder here, right? So you have like this curve, and then it's going into this part of the arm, and then actually it's coming out like that. So you do, you do have like this S curve kind of relationship, right? Here to here to here to here and going out there, right? This reason why it's very important, like to draw loosely when you start off, because if you make your lines too heavy in the beginning, then you're going to run into a problem um, with you like laying down um, lines that are too committed, and then it's gonna look, it's not gonna look believable, right? So okay, so I have all these opposite curves here, and I know this is over a form, so I'm gonna lay in my straights. So bicep here, okay, and then I know the elbow's gonna be here. All right, this is coming out, so put 1, 2, coming out like this, and then feeding in here like 3. Now another thing, as I'm drawing this anatomy, um, I, it's not my intention, to copy exactly, what's here. Um, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think the most important thing here is to inform. I'm sorry, to have like an understanding of what's happening here. Not just to copy it, right? So and then like go into the hand like this, right? Okay. Here, thumb. Okay. That's the ridge part of the hand. All right, and again, we don't need to draw the whole thing, because we just want to, um, we just want to imply the gesture of this hand here. So like, so there's my arm here. Okay. You know what? I'll throw in a little bit more here, even though I don't have to. Okay. So I'm able to like convey um, what's happening with this arm, really just by like following the rhythms in here. So you looking for the rhythms is always going to be helpful. Like here, even here, like here, as I said, like when the hand is in the pronated form, this is pronating, so it's turning over, right? This is supinated, right? So the supinator muscle actually it turns over like this, right? But you can see like this S curve relationship, right? So I'm just going to draw a form here, and then I'm going to bring this over like that. Actually, I'm going to not do the whole thing as Bridgman is showing here. I just want you guys to get the basic idea. All right. There's the supinator. All right. And there's the ulna, and then that's the radius. Okay. Now I'm referring to terms that I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but when you start studying anatomy, and you start like making friends with it, it can be kind of fun, actually, because you start to really you start to see how things are working together, and on top of that, it's kind of fun sometimes, actually. You know, people who tend to know anatomy very well are artists and um, people in the medical field. Okay, so all right. So again, you have this thing going over like that. Okay. All right. So and this maybe I don't know if this was like the best example, but um, maybe I'll give you one more example. Okay. And I think the leg is also is a good example. Okay. Because that one's a little bit easier actually. It's, arm, hand. Okay, here we go. Here's the leg, and there we go. Beautiful, exactly. So it's very clear here. It's very, very clear, right? You see like how like this outside of the thigh goes into like the inside of the knee, and then it goes like to the outside of the calf, and then it feeds into like the inside um, of the inside ankle, and then to the outside, right? So you have like that S curve kind of relationship, right? So when I draw this, I just get like this basic rhythm down, right? That's it. I hope you can see this because this is very light, and you really shouldn't be drawing any darker than this when you lay things in, you know. Okay. So again, outside of the thigh, inside of the knee, right? Outside of the calf, inside of the inside ankle, outside ankle, out into the foot. Okay. And then I can finish my volumes. Of course, I can offset things clearly with the relative straight. Now, some people, like an animation, they'll make this part like perfectly straight, and you can do that. But the truth is, like, it doesn't really look like that, But we can respect it because, in contrast to the outside, or the contrast to its complement, it's going to be a little more rounded, right? But actually, it's going to be kind of like that. And this one is going to come in like that. Okay. And here's our, oops. Here's our leg. All right. All right. Now there are muscles here that I can name, like of course, like this muscle here, this long one, like this is one of the longest muscles in your body, and that's called the sartorius muscle, and that kind of like offsets the abductor muscles behind the leg. You have like the quadriceps, which connect into like the knee here. So you have um, the rectus, the vastus lataris, and then vastus lataris is on this side, vastus medius is on the inside, and then you have like the rectus femoris on the inside here, like that. The calf muscle is called your gastrocnemius muscle, and that sits behind your calf muscle. So actually, your shin bone is protruding out a lot more, because actually, there's no um, there's no muscle. So that's when you hit your shin, it really hurts, you know. So um, another tip, okay, in terms of like when you draw muscles or when you draw anatomy, every muscle um, actually has a um, a counter muscle. So I'm not drawing any particular muscle, but usually the muscles have this kind of relationship. Just be like here, like this. So did you see like how these muscles complement each other, all right? So when you look at a lot of the muscles, a lot of the muscles are going to be offset. You know, like for example, like here, like the inside, say the outside of the calf and the inside of the calf, right? The calf is never, it's not like this. The calf is not going to be like, go 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 go. It's not going to be like that, you know. That's weird, you know. Um, and unless you're doing something like for a design, you know, but the muscle doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like that. The muscles are always going to be offset, right? Like you see the like the muscle here on the outside is a little bit higher, but the muscle on the inside is actually is a little bit lower, actually. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're studying anatomy, is to take that into account. Like look how things are attaching, and then see like how they complement each other. There's always going to be like a complement of muscles. Okay. All right. So I hope that's a little bit helpful, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay. All right. Take care. Bye bye.